Welcome back to The Big Picture. We're talking about taxi cabs and rideshare, and my guest is Bill Junke, who's the owner of Liberty Cab. And we were talking about, some of the unfair advantages, some of the regulations that apply to you, cab drivers and taxi drivers, and not rideshare. In fairness, rideshare has some advantages, and that's why they have taken a bite out of the market. There's a convenience factor. There's no cash involved. How does it compare? What are you up against in your competition?
Well, there's been several levels. It wasn't level from the very beginning. I mean, you could take the fact that it was going after the credit card business, the travelers. And so when you're traveling, it's great. When you travel, Phil and I travel, it'd be great just to have one phone number, because you come into a city, you don't know who to call. Right. So that was an advantage. They're all, so the cab industry was slow to the gate there. And they went after some big corporations like the American Express, the JP Morgan. They put financial money behind them, and they're still asking for money. But if you look at the record over the last several years, they claim they haven't made any money in any of their quarters. I don't know about you, but you got to make a profit to stay in business.
Well, cab companies are owned by individual companies. They're a little bit, in my mind, easier to understand. Tell me a little bit about the corporate structure of Uber or Lyft. I'm not quite sure I understand who owns that or how it's corporately structured.
I really don't know if I could speak factual on that subject. I don't think anyone knows, actually. Yeah. I mean, they're filing for, the IPO now, and that's coming out. Lyft has tried it, and I think the drivers are the ones that are going to suffer.
Are the drivers like franchisees? Is that how it works?
They're not even a franchise. You just go on an app and you sign up your car. You got a 4-door car. It is so easy that, it was, geez, I got a couple hours a day I can do, and I can drive and make some money. And everybody wants to make more money. It's a tough time out there. So we had such obstacles that you have to accomplish before you get a license with the city of Buffalo. And they, when the mayor first ran, one of his platforms was to make Buffalo a business-friendly city. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's friendly. I will go on record to say that. It's very complicated. It's a lot of red tape. And so people don't want the red tape. They want the fast lane. And so with Uber and Lyft, they got the fast lane. They got the waiver. They got the politicians to drink the Kool-Aid. But the safety factor has always been there. When I go home at night, I want to know that, my cars and my drivers are doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. If I have a driver that we find that is doing something that he shouldn't be, he's no longer here. But guess what? In 5 minutes, he leaves me. He's driving for Uber or Lyft.
Well, I know one of the stories that I came across when researching for the show was that Uber spends more money than anyone else lobbying in New York State. And according to the story, a lot of it is lobbying for lower wages and less scrutiny on safety and regulations. What are they accomplishing with all that money?
Well, that's a true fact, but if you look at the one place where they're following all the rules and regulations, there's in New York City. They are following all the rules from the Taxi and Liveries Commission, every one of them. And now they have the minimum wage to contend to. And that minimum wage is $17 and something. So I think they got some real problems in New York City.
What percentage, maybe locally here or maybe nationally if you know, what percentage of the market has rideshare taken over? It used to be cabs were the only game in town.
Wow.
What is it now?
It's, I do know some records, yeah. In Buffalo area, we're really well aware that at the airport in particular, rideshare probably consumes 60 to 70% of the work that comes out of there.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's huge, and I feel very bad for my friends at the airport. However, I compensated on a few other levels. I went under the medical transportation, which, by the way, they're trying to get into that business as well. So I can't understand. I have to have all this extra insurance. I have to have the background checks. I have to have all the red tape to transport these patients, and they're talking about trying it with them, and they are doing a pilot program in Westchester County, I believe.
Well, competition may be a headache for you, but it's always a blessing for the consumer because it always improves things. Competition leads to better service, maybe better prices, better regulations, cleaner cabs, whatever. What has this competition done to you and your operation over the last few years? How have you had to adapt?
Well, first thing, I don't look at rideshare as competition to me personally, because I made my changes. I think they're more worried about me than they are and vice versa. Okay. And I've heard that from many sources. However, they seem to be able to operate without any rules at all. I mean, you know, the cars were supposed to be newer, and I think they're like 10 or 15 years. I think I still read that you can put a car on, and yet with the city of Buffalo, mine is 8 to 10. So you see, right there, it's already an unlevel playing field. So a guy says, well, I can't put the car on with you, but I can put it on with a rideshare company. Mm-hmm. And it's how you present it to the public. I believe that the passengers are coming back to the cab industry here in Western New York. I see it in the numbers. I see it where they're coming back. And a lot of it is the face-to-face meetings we're having, including with what you guys do here at BBZ, getting out to the public. I think people want to see who they're really giving the money to. They want to see what the people look like. They want to be able to get on that phone and say, you know, I had a little problem. You know, how are you going to solve it? We give that personal touch, and I will never wander from that.
Well, you came up with an app yourself to kind of take that advantage away. How does that work, and how does it compare with what they do when you want to call an Uber?
Well, we had a national app. It was called Curb. It's still there. It's connected to 65 cities. Our own app, Ride, R-I-I-D-E, is a free app. You can do cash or credit card. You can order in a vehicle of like a sedan or a wheelchair. So we have an advantage on the wheelchair side because Uber and Lyft has no wheelchairs. They should have under ADA law, but that's always overlooked. So I think what we did as a company, we listened to the people, we listened to the drivers, and the bottom line is this: we want our drivers not to be treated as a part-time person working for us. We want them to be treated as a career. You can make money in ground transportation. You just got to be honest and fair.
Well, you know, obviously the competition has made you more aware of you know, the technology that they've brought to the industry, the apps and so on. So that's a good thing. I mean, you know, the consumer benefits from those things. One advantage that you have over any rideshare company, if you will, is you've been around for a long time and you're local. You know the area, and you're organized in a way. I mean that you're very familiar with Western New York.
Correct.
In all the parts of Western New York. Uber drivers, the rideshare business is a little fragmented. I mean, they may be local drivers, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Correct. You know, one of the things I like to bring up is that your Uber driver here in Western New York may not even be from here. There was a story in the Buffalo News when they first started where a girl said she drove in from Pennsylvania to drive here in Buffalo because it was more busier here. So you see, there was no regulation. A person with a Pennsylvania license plate is working here in Buffalo. That can't be right. It can't be. So, you know, all these rules that were coming up, I do understand there is some movement to identify the Uber cars a little bit more, and I'm hearing permanent markings. I think that's going to come. I think they're going to go through a change. But I do believe that the drivers themselves are coming back to the real world.
And speaking of the markings and putting some regulations in that respect, the local government, you mentioned the mayor and the local government, how has the mayor and the city and other localities, the municipalities, how have they looked on this whole situation with regard to regulations, or are they leaning one way or another? Are they
Well, the
looking-
state did pass a law that Buffalo could opt out with a population of 100,000 or more people. I had to agree with the mayor on this subject because a lot of people question why he didn't opt out. I just said Buffalo. That did not, so a rideshare company could have started in Kenmore, Tonawanda, Cheektowaga. It wouldn't have solved the problem, and he was correct. You know, I know a lot of my fellow operators were very upset with him, but the truth of the matter, he was only following the state law. I wish that somebody would look at some of the federal laws that are being done. Cities that are actually mandating a cap on how many should be out there. How many ride-sharing vehicles are out there? Nobody knows here in Buffalo.
No record, huh?
No record.
That's interesting. Okay, well, we've got about 2 minutes left. What is your prediction for the future of this whole situation? Where do you see this going?
I believe that ground transportation, including the taxi industry, is going to a change right now. You had mentioned to me about some of the things I did. Well, you don't see cabs out there with dome lights anymore. You don't see big markings on my vehicles anymore. The industry, even those steps were a start of changing the image of ground transportation. If the automated vehicles do come to pass, and I am convinced it will, is the fact that are they really creating jobs, or they're only using these drivers now until they can replace them?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. You know, it's how long have cabs? Well, first of all, how long have you been with Liberty?
I started Liberty 43 years ago,
Okay, so that's
and it's been a change. But if I didn't make changes and I didn't see changes, I could be a dinosaur, but I had young people around me. I surrounded myself with young people, and we listened to what their needs are. You know, we hired people from colleges, our technical department. We are now servicing 8 states with our technology, 16 cities, including Canada. So we know that we're on the right track. We're doing testing we were asked to do testing with the Department of Health. This makes me feel good that it looks like we are on the right track. We are going to change the industry. It's not going to be, there's going to be people that are not going to be happy about it, including the taxi industry. But what's good for one is good for another. I can live with that.
well, no business lasts for 46 years without doing something right. So, you know, you can be proud of that. And hopefully the future will be kind to not only the cab company, but ride sharing and the people of Buffalo. I mean, it's a good situation if everybody competes well and the safety and convenience improves.
And Phil, thank you for bringing up the safety issue. I think this is more important than anything we talked about today.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the big picture this week. It's an interesting subject, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again in the future. I want to thank Bill Yunke for being my guest this week. I want to thank all of you for watching The Big Picture and for supporting WBBZ TV, which is your hometown TV station. We'll see you next time on The Big Picture.